Hi, my name is Mike Harrison. I am the Business Development Manager for BioForward, Wisconsin. The primary focus of my work is I run the Milwaukee office of BioForward, so I handle any and all business that's happening in the southeastern Wisconsin area. But BioForward, we're a small team, so we all do a lot of different work to support the industry and our members. BioForward is we call ourselves a collective voice of Wisconsin's robust and comprehensive biohealth cluster, which represents over 220 members across an integrated network of health solutions leaders, including research institutions, biotech and biopharma, medical device and diagnostics, and digital health companies. We consider ourselves to be an action-oriented association, so we focus on initiatives that strengthen the state's talent pipeline. We develop collaborations to help develop supply chain partnerships. We have educational networking events that enhance professional development, and legislative advocacy that highlights the economic and social impact of the biohealth industry on the state, the nation, and the world. So the first question that I have here is, how has the biohealth ecosystem of Wisconsin changed in the last 5 years? The earliest data that I have is or the most recent data that I have is between 2013 and 2017, that shows an increase in direct economic output of about $6.3 billion for our industry. And the growth in the last 5 years has certainly been similar to that, if not greater. We've seen growth in investment in our industry. We've seen increased startup activity, increased jobs, increased wages. So overall growth in our industry. And as far as young companies go, we've seen more resources and network opportunities for young companies and large companies as well to grow and expand. I will say another thing that I've noticed a change in our ecosystem in the last 5 years has been kind of the rise of digital health. The digital health industry is certainly the fastest growing sector of our entire industry. The other part of that question is, where do you see it in the next 5 to 10 years? So I would imagine there will continue to be a rise in digital health and healthcare technologies, and we'll see more integration of those types of technologies into our other pieces of the industry. So we'll see more AI and machine learning type algorithms work their way into biotech and biopharma and biomanufacturing companies. As well as diagnostics companies. But then in general, I think we'll continue to see a growth in the entirety of the biohealth industry. I predict we'll have a few more big investments in the next 5 years, a few more big wins, as they call it. Larger companies moving in. There's been quite an amount of growth in southeastern Wisconsin in kind of that 94, in between Milwaukee and Chicago, in that corridor there. I would imagine we're going to see a couple more big companies in our industry move in there in the next 5 or 10 years. I think also we'll see more growth of our industry. So right now, the majority of our members, our industry is in the Madison region, followed by the Milwaukee region. But there are biohealth companies dotted all throughout the state, and I think we'll see more of a growth in those areas now that there's sort of increased startup activity and more work being done in those regions. So particularly places like Green Bay or Beloit, where they kind of have active startup hubs going. We'll see more activity there as well. My next question is, what is the biggest challenge facing biotechnology in Wisconsin? I'll say two things because they're fairly different, but also tied together. One of them is diversity. So we need more women in leadership positions, and we need more people of color in all positions throughout our industry. We certainly have some some companies that are more diverse than others, but it's still it's partly the state, but it's a problem in our industry, and I think that's a challenge that we all need to work hard to overcome. Besides being just the right thing to do, it's also increasing diversity not only makes the companies more competitive, but also makes Wisconsin in general more desirable to outside talent. Having a more diverse ecosystem has been shown to increase recruitment and retention of talent. So it's definitely something that we should be doing and we need to do. I'll say also a big challenge, as always with our industry, and even more so now, is just maintaining the level of innovation. Our company is our industry is innovation based. So I mean, we need to make sure that we continue investing in R&D and startups and keep that innovation pipeline going, as well as encouraging corporate innovation projects. Just make sure that that our companies stay competitive, because the only way to maintain a competitive edge in our industry is to continue to innovate and continue to come up with brand new products and solutions and pathways. So that's what I think are the challenges that we face the next coming years. How easy is it for academia, industry, and government to collaborate in Wisconsin? Let me just say first, so one good thing to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic is it showed how quickly government, industry, and academia can collaborate in this state and throughout the nation if the desire or the need is there. I think the partnerships formed during that time will kind of serve as an example for how to do it, for how to do it in the future, and will encourage that type of behavior in the future, because people will see how beneficial it is to come together like that and do it for some other reasons that aren't quite so as dire as a pandemic. Until then, those things don't happen quickly or easily, but they need encouragement. Biofor's best example of, I think, of something like this would be the Forward Bio initiative. So Dr. Bill Murphy is a fantastic researcher at UW-Madison, and he's also co-founded multiple biotech startups. So he has that kind of understanding and desire to move technologies out of academia into the industry. And he wanted also to designate Wisconsin as a center of excellence in biomanufacturing due to the expertise that we have there and the reason that most of the world comes to Wisconsin for our expertise in those fields. So, and he wanted to also, take advantage of that and use that to develop a pathway to get technology out of the university and into a startup ecosystem that was ready to support them. So BioForward helped them create the Forward Bio initiative that has an academic component that encourages startup thinking in the basic sciences and at UW-Madison. And when the startups are eventually formed, we have a shared lab facility that is ready to support them. That was initially funded by generous support from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. That shared lab space, Forward Bio Labs, is currently full and has even graduated several startups that have left in need of bigger space. So that system is working very well right now. And so, it shows that it can be done, but it isn't easy and requires a lot of cooperation, a lot of time, and a shared vision among all of those partners. Hopefully the pandemic will shift some of this thinking. and allow the state to be more collaborative in the future. And I hope that is the case. The next question is, what is one of the most interesting trends you've observed in the digital health space? There's a lot of cool things happening in digital health right now. But to me, I think the most interesting trend is this shift to the bigger driver of innovation being consumer demand. So technologies used to be, and still are, developed, basically looking at, what do the physicians need? What's the bare minimum to improve outcome? But now that individuals are becoming much more involved in their own healthcare and understanding their healthcare and having things that they want to get out of their healthcare that they may not always be getting, there's far more consideration now being taken to the direct needs and wants of the patient, not just what the physician considers a need of the patient. So to me, that's a really fascinating development in the industry. And it's a great step forward for patients who used to have a very one-sided relationship with their healthcare team, and now are considered maybe the most valuable part of that healthcare team. So for a long time, the mantra has always been, when you're building a product, faster, cheaper, better. And I think this is kind of the next evolution of that, whereas instead of the hospitals being the one to decide what is faster, cheaper, better, now it is the patient who is deciding what is faster, cheaper, better for them. And I think that's a good evolution of the space. And having people more involved, care more, understand more about their own health is a better thing for everybody. And I hope to see that trend continue. The next question is, how much of a role do venture capital and angel funding dynamics play in supporting the biohealth ecosystem? So angel and VC funding has always been a critical part of the biohealth industry because innovation drives our industry forward. So having new and innovative ideas and companies is the only way to achieve that. In the past, I would say Wisconsin investors have had a reputation for being fairly risk averse. There didn't seem to be a huge focus on our industry in the past as well. I think that is definitely changing, albeit maybe slowly. There are definitely more funds and a growing interest from outside investors in the state, so that is a good thing. Investments seem to be increasing, like I said, but I will say I think from a biohealth standpoint, I see a lot more investment interest in the digital health space. Again, because far less risk for a piece of software that can, iterate very quickly, has a very low initial investment that's needed to possibly have a very big return. So a lot less risk there, and I'm seeing possibly less of the investment into more traditional biotech, which require a lot more capital and a lot more time to see a return. So maybe that is still reflecting a little bit of the risk adversity that we've had in the past, but at least there is more investment in our industry, and I think that trend will continue. Next question is, how does BioForward support smaller and more earlier stage companies / startups? So BioForward doesn't specialize in startups. We do have a fair amount of startups that are members of BioForward that definitely see an advantage to membership. So I will say for our startup members, we do things like we have many opportunities for them to market their company to the membership, and to market throughout the U.S. through like our talent initiative. We offer scholarship opportunities for smaller companies to attend large national conferences throughout the U.S. We have direct connections opportunities to our members and other partners. We have a purchasing consortium called the Select Savings Program that allows our members to save money on shipping, lab supplies, hotels, data services, things like that. Some of our startups that take advantage of that are getting discounts on things like lab supplies that they wouldn't really be able to get anywhere else because they don't have the volume to get that kind of savings. So it really helps out some of our in that respect helps out some of our lab based companies tremendously. And then we also have exclusive networking opportunities with industry leaders throughout the year. And that's not to say that we don't help out startups that aren't members. So for every startup that isn't a member, so we have we have events throughout the year that anyone can attend for networking purposes and education. We advocate on a state and federal level for our whole industry, not just our members. So, and we're supporting things like research and development and innovation in all forms, as well as protecting our young companies from legislation that might hurt them to benefit larger companies. And then we have, like I said in the very beginning, that BioForward is an initiative-based program association. So we have several programs that offer free networking to anybody in the community. Things like the Women in Biohealth Initiative or Startup MKE both offer free resources and networking opportunities to anybody. So startups can definitely benefit from that. My next question is, how are BioForward's members responding to the COVID-19 pandemic? So our industry is considered essential, so we kept working. Our members have developed best practices and shared these for other companies to stay safe in their offices, factories, and laboratories. So, and our members, of course, are is the industry that is developing tests, therapies, vaccines, as well as producing supplies that laboratories need, and instruments laboratories need, and PPE. A lot of our members produce PPE as well. That's personal protective equipment, masks, gowns, things like that. Many members that we have are contract workers, and they've been contracted out by companies all throughout the world to help them produce their tests and vaccines and therapies as well. So we have a lot of members working on critical projects. Our members have also designed and produced and distributed masks and other types of PPE. So groups like here in Milwaukee, we had a group called the Mask Force, which was a number of companies and engineers and schools and students all working together to design masks and produce them at a low cost and give them away to workers that need them. Many of our members have laboratory facilities that have been utilized to increase the state's testing capacity for COVID-19. Many of them have held events that help to educate and train others. And our members act as leaders during this time. So we are the biohealth industry. So we include healthcare institutions like, so here in the Milwaukee area, Professor Raymond, the president of the Medical College of Wisconsin, has really kind of stepped up and served as like a leader, a face of the medical industry, of the healthcare industry, and the research industry in understanding and interpreting data and really helping everybody kind of make the next steps in their industry as what to do in response to the pandemic. So our members have been leaders during this, for sure. My next question is, what is BioForward doing to support its members in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic? So what is BioForward doing? So I just told you what our members are doing. So BioForward, we're an advocacy organization, so we have advocated to keep our industry essential. So we wanted to make sure that our members didn't have any roadblocks that would keep them from doing this critical work that they're doing. We also advocated to limit the liability for makers of non-approved PPE, so people that are out there making masks just to help out of the goodness of their heart. We wanted to make sure that they weren't held liable for anything that might happen. when used responsibly. We also have held events on best practices and the government's response, virtual events. We've helped connect members to resources like PPE and lab supplies and cleaning supplies. We have helped facilitate member partnerships. We have helped spread the word about our members' activities. We started. I mentioned our initiatives. One of our initiatives is a PR initiative, changing the narrative about what's going on in Wisconsin in general, and we've used the PR initiative to great success to promote what our members are doing to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic and how essential our industry has been to those efforts. Yeah, and really, getting the word out. My final question is, what is the impact that you would like to have on the world? So I assume they're talking about me personally. So I would say, the great advantage of working in the biohealth industry is that no matter what your job is, you are working to improve human health and save lives. And that's ultimately the impact that I want to leave on the world as a person. It's a pretty lofty goal, but I work all day helping companies achieve their goals, and when we all have this kind of similar goal, I feel pretty confident that me helping these companies succeed and get closer to some new life-changing developments, some new technology, a new therapy that gets out there and is used. I feel pretty confident that I will have achieved exactly that, improving human health and saving lives. So that's my last question. Thank you all for attending the conference and for listening to my session. Thanks.